Okay, welcome everyone back to another amazing episode with Beyond Boardroom Business. I'm your host, Coach Stephanie. I am a business strategist, and I am so fortunate to be able to interview trailblazers and people who make a difference in this world. And my next guest is just another amazing example of the people that you need to know. So she has a plethora of different things that she is a part of. She's also an author, and you know that I am also a book writing coach. So I'm definitely going to just find out all about her latest books. But the main thing is to find out who she is and what makes her so extraordinary. And so we're going to talk about how to elevate your well being as an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's so important to balance your life. And so, without further ado, let's get started with bringing on Mrs. Naima Abdullah. Greetings. How are you tonight?
Hello, everyone. It's so amazing to be here tonight. I'm super, super excited. And thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, you are most welcome. I mean, when I looked over your website and just learned all about you, I said, oh, she has to be on this podcast because it's just so important for people to know people that can
Mhm.
help make a difference in their life.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Naima, can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Oh, man. I am, look, you know how they say I'm every woman? I feel like that. I'm every woman. So it's
Okay.
important to know, man, all of this started, of course. I like to tell people that I'm over 50, specifically because it lets people know that you can do anything you want at any age. And as you're
Right.
continuing to evolve, you can always continue to evolve past 50. I know that back in the day, it used to be where we would say, man, they're so old. And I do not feel old. Okay. I feel
Oh,
ripened and I feel like there's so much more to go. But I used to be a stay-at-home mom. And when I was a stay-at-home mom, of course I homeschooled my children. And then I really wasn't into like, I'm gonna stop work, I'm gonna, stop being at home and I'm gonna go into the workforce. But
okay.
it was really, really interesting that as my children got older and once they were all in school, I was like, well, what am I gonna be doing? Right? I'm sitting at home all day. I was like, I'm not about to do this. So what I decided to do was I decided to kind of start my own pathway, which is something that I really, really encourage women to do. I guess the biggest question that women are always asking is, can we have it all? And my answer to that is, you can in phases. And so, one of the
That's true.
phases that I encourage women to do when they are going through the cycle of life and their children begin to go into school is if you want to start a business, this is a perfect opportunity and time to do that.
That is
Because while they're in school, you should be working on your business. You should be getting that sleep that you need to get you through the evening, right? So what I
right.
did was I started to work on a business, and what I found was that as I was serving my community in a volunteer capacity and also serving my community in the role of being a secretary at my place of worship, I found
Mhm.
that people needed all kinds of stuff. Something as basic as resumes and Excel documents, and they needed me to plan their events and project manage their events. And
Yes.
I looked up and I was like, am I doing all this for free? So I decided, let me stop doing the free thing and let me just go into really starting a business. And I was working with my mother at a program called ACAP, which is Accounting Career Awareness Program. And Dennis Kimbrough was there. And he
Oh,
came,
wow.
yeah, he came and he spoke, and he was basically talking about like how we should reach for the mountaintop or reach for the sky so that we can land on the mountaintop.
Yes.
And I just thought it was so ironic because I was sitting there and I was literally crying, and the students were like, "What is wrong with her?" And this was probably when I was about 38. And I was thinking to myself, man, I really need to carve something out for myself.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't want to necessarily just be working at my place of worship. I really want to have my own business. And in 2014, that's exactly what I did. I started my own business. It was called Get It Done Virtual Assistant Company. And I essentially had been working from home since 2004 anyway, in the capacity of a administrative assistant for someone who lived in Florida. And we didn't know that that was what it was called then. And of course, then nobody was doing that. But I was like, I was assisting this specific person. And then from there, I was like, man, I was gaining so many skills. I was like, stay-at-home moms, boy, they got all the skills, right? So I was having such a good time doing that. And then it just kind of like rolled over into my business. And then I started working with a consulting firm. And then, I mean, I just had like
Wow.
a plethora of things to do, but so much fun learning and doing so many different things over the last 20 decades.
Wow. So
Decades, 20 years.
as a virtual assistant, for those who are interested in pursuing that, what is it that they need to have established in order to start their business?
Oh, definitely skill set. I definitely know that as a virtual assistant, you yourself have to have the skills. It's very difficult. Some people sometimes think of virtual assistants as a personal assistant, and that is not what that is. A virtual assistant is more administrative. So if you are really into typing a lot, data, if you're interested in helping people answer emails and phone calls, if you're interested in helping people put their plans together, operations management, virtual assistant, you can really make really good money doing that specific thing. And so you don't have to necessarily go into a really big company to make a lot of money. You're able to either hire people by, letting them pay for you by hour or by project. And when you start paying by the project, that's when the money starts coming in. So yeah, that's those are the skills that they need.
And so it can be like a 1 day assignment or a 1 year assignment. Is there a deadline?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing about being a virtual assistant is if you're starting your own company, this is something that really you can do it on your terms. And so it's not necessarily something that you have to do 9 to 5. I think that sometimes people get in the rut of still carrying their business over into corporate type rules. And you got to stop doing that. The reason you're going into business for yourself is so that you can create your own rules. So if you say, hey, today I'm only going to work 2 hours, work 2 hours. And if you have the capacity to do that and you're able to do a lot of work in a short period of time, you're going to find yourself so happy.
That is so true because as I mentioned, the well-being is so important. And
Yeah,
it's important to listen to the body. If the body is telling you 2 hours, you need to listen.
that's right. And take those naps.
Yes. Especially over 50, right?
Yes. I love the nap time.
That's true. And so tell me more about well-being. How do you incorporate well-being into your life?
Oh man, I actually have an entire thing where I talk about self-care for entrepreneurs. And so there's 8 different areas that I like for people to really think about investing in themselves. And of course, we always hear the basic things of people saying, "Oh, I want to go get a massage. I want to go and go and get my hair done or all these other things." But people are sometimes forgetting that they have to have other things in terms of an action plan as for yourself as an entrepreneur. So when you start thinking about, man, I need self-care when it comes to my finances, right? Because your
Mhm.
finances are so essential in terms of like if they are failing, how are you putting it back together? Because this is where when we get into those ruts, we start feeling stressed out in certain areas. You need
Yes.
self-care in terms of your environment, making sure that your environment feels fresh and flowy and that when you
Yes.
go into it, you're always feeling good. And that's exactly what you need to have when it comes to your work environment. So when people are like, man, I feel stuck, what about the environment you're in? Is it something where you're working at home or do you need to actually go out and work? Thinking about self-care when it comes to your physical being, right? What are you doing in terms of like your nutrition? What are you doing in terms of your sleep? Are you getting those naps in? Are you going for those walks? Are you exercising? You also have self-care for your mental being. Like, are you taking that break, right? At night when it's time to get ready to go to bed, get off of that phone, right? Just start really
Yes.
going down into a state of really a meditative state where you're listening to maybe sounds and things that are really going to calm you down, and then really thinking about spending some time to make sure that your mental health is always replenished every single day. I also have self care when it comes to your spirituality. So, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Well, whatever that means to you, anything that you can do that where you're searching a higher power and you're finding a source to replenish yourself, you need to be doing that on an everyday basis also. And then you have occupational self-care, right? Start thinking about, man, when it comes to my work, what am I doing occupationally where I'm making sure that my mind and everything is always being replenished? And something else in terms of your health, mental health also, is reading books. So I encourage people to read books regularly. And if you want to be a millionaire, studies show that people who are millionaires read on a regular basis a minimum of 30 minutes a day, right?
Wow.
So
Oh,
all
okay.
of these great tips, there's some other areas, but just thinking about self-care for entrepreneurs in all in these vast areas, and really having an action plan in place and
Yes.
being proactive instead of reactive. And so
Mm.
when you start getting that burnout, because we all are like, I'm so sick of this, I'm tired of it, that burnout. And one thing that I really, really, really encourage entrepreneurs to do is to put on your list, you have to have a quarterly vacation,
Mm.
because the mind has to rest. And every single time you do that mental vacation, you are going to find yourself in a whole nother warp speed, because once you can rest the mind and come back, it's
So
always an opportunity for you to expand and to grow. So those are just a couple of tips that I think
true.
that entrepreneurs should think about.
Wow, that's plenty right there. And it's so important, as you mentioned, and people uh, put themselves on the back burner, especially women as wives, parents,
Yeah.
mothers. Yeah. So when it comes to writing a strategy, as you said, have a strategy, how do they get started?
Oh man, let me tell you, I believe in cheat sheets. And what I always tell people to do is to use Chat GPT. So I did an entire workshop on this, where if you
Nice.
don't know what the 8 areas of the business entrepreneur should be focusing on, put it in Chat GPT. It knows, right? And then just write out according to what you are in terms of your business. So you're going to ask Chat GPT, hey, Chat GPT, as a health and well-being coach, what can I do for myself as the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company? What are the 8 areas in which I need to create a self-care plan so that I can remain healthy and always on the up and up, right? So once you put that into Chat GPT, and then you're going to put in there as a whatever your role is for your company and or whatever you're doing right now. And let
Yes.
me tell you, Chat GPT will spit that out for you. It will actually create the action plan for you, because sometimes people, these are new things that we're talking about, right? Action plans for self-care. And so people, like I said, outside of what they're used to, the massages and then getting your hair done and these basic things, we really have to elevate it. And what society has shown us now, especially when it comes to Black women, is that women are no longer okay with the basic status quo of food, clothing, and shelter. So when you see that there's a large mass of Black women that feel like they're disgruntled and like, what's going on? It's not that they're disgruntled in the way that they're not being pleased and satisfied. It's they're disgruntled in the way that their level of thinking is so much more elevated now. And so they have to be met on a different and higher level in order to feel satisfied. And so
Mm.
that's why it's important for us to have an action plan, so that when we get to that low level thinking, we're like, no, 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 this, we need to elevate this. I need my action plan. And we can
That
we
is
can hmm
right, right. That's a great point. Now, you mentioned that you have children. So, how do you handle your personal life and your professional life at the
Oh my
same time?
goodness. Well, when I was, of course, establishing my business, my children were at school, but now I'm over 50 and my children are they're all over 20. So my youngest is actually 24. But one
Okay.
of the things that I was doing as I was, bringing my children up, is also making sure that they had things to do. And I was
Yeah.
extremely well organized inside of my home. And so one of the things that I also created was something called a command center. And inside of that command center, what I did was, hey, I needed to know, what are we having for the month when it comes to food? I'm not going to be like waking up every day and trying to figure out what's for dinner. No, no, no. So I created this menu for the month that I have been doing since I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And each day is a different genre. So you literally, if you know recipes, if you know 8 recipes when it comes to pastas or Italian food, you won't eat that for another 8 weeks. So
Gotcha.
you start thinking about how you can open your children's palate, open your palate.
Mhm.
Being organized is quintessential to being happy also. And then making sure that my home was clean regularly, making sure that the children did their roles and responsibilities, that when it was the week, at the beginning of the week, I had these IKEA things. It had Monday through Friday on it. Everybody had their own. They would all put their clothes in there for the week.
Oh,
And just making sure that everything was like all in order so that I wouldn't be stressed out. What you find is that moms will wake up because they're so tired, right? Wake
yeah.
up and they're fussing at the children in the morning and hurry up and let's do all these different things. But if you plan everything out in an easier way, you'll find that there's so much more peace for you and your children. And then as you're going throughout the day, the the ability to be able to balance everything just kind of goes into a flow instead of this resistance. And when you don't have things in place, that's where the resistance comes.
Oh, that is so true. Yes, yes. Uh,
Yep.
Wow, you're so right. And when it comes to health, how important is the health and the particular foods that you eat that can affect your overall well-being?
Oh my gosh. Well, me myself, I'm a vegetarian, right? I
Okay.
stopped eating meat, oh my gosh, actually in 2009.
Oh, wow.
And what I noticed is that my energy level started to go up, right? And
Mm,
definitely eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, more vegetables than fruits, because even though we say fruits and vegetables, fruits still have a lot of sugar in them. And just
yes.
making sure that you're keeping your sugar count down and eating those vegetables that are going to replenish you. And as African American people, one thing that is quintessential in our diet are greens. And they say
Mm,
that when African Americans eat greens, they find themselves healthier, more energetic, and they're able to not succumb to diabetes and all of these other things that we succumb to. And so we
yeah.
have to kind of get away from all of these. The soul food is great, right? It's great. But we have to also remember that some of the soul food was created out of a necessity. Like
Right.
we had to eat these things because these were the leftover foods from the
Exactly.
slave owner. And
Exactly.
so we ended up turning them into delicious meals. But we also have to see what is the nutritional value of that. And so we need to get away from eating some of those soul foods and going back to eating more of the natural foods and then not cooking as often. So not to eat totally raw, but eating more salads and things like that,
Mhm,
and not
mhm,
eating as much meat. So when you take meat out of the diet, at least for twice a week, you'll find that you're going to start to feel
mhm.
healthier. Drinking water
Yes.
regularly.
Yes.
Let me tell you, people do not like to drink water. They're like, oh, I drank some juice. I drink the. No, no, no. Drink water regularly. You will find
Yes.
that your skin will start to shine more, your hair will start to glisten more, your skin will actually be more supple and it'll be shiny, and you don't have to
Yes.
put tons of lotion on because you're eating better. So eating from the inside out is definitely a part of all over well-being.
You are so right. And since you mentioned how you changed into a vegan
A
after
vegetarian.
vegetarian after you've had children, so how was the transitioning for your children, or did you introduce them to that lifestyle as well?
I introduced them to the same thing. So some of them, they will eat vegetarian anytime. And then the biggest thing is my husband, he is a meat eater, honey. He's like, I need me some meat. But what he has started to adopt was, of course, we have meatless Mondays. So he loves to eat salads now, which is something that he didn't like before. But now I love it because he's like, you want to have a salad? I'm like, yeah, let's have a salad, right? And so that's always great. So as long when people see that you're functioning in a higher capacity and in a higher way, they'll always begin to kind of leech onto that. So what I like to
That's
tell women is when you change, everything around you changes. So that's important to know.
that is so true. And then you were mentioning CEOs. Can you tell me more about your first book or
Mm.
I'm not sure if it's your first book or not, but it is available on Amazon. But
Yes, it's my first book. I'm so excited. Okay, so CEO Chronicles, Confessions and Game-Changing Actions. So this is a book that I actually wrote with 19 other coaches. So last year, basically in 2023, I ended up going through a coaching program with Hello 7 and Rachel Rogers. And if you don't know who Rachel Rogers is, she's the author of We Should All Be Millionaires. And she is absolutely right. Right? So
yes.
she developed a coaching program, and it was probably about 80 of us who actually ended up going through the program, graduating. Well, after we graduated, a couple of months into 2024, we're like, hey, so somebody came up with the idea of let's write a book. And so many people got on the bandwagon. Okay, yeah, let's write a book. So we all basically got our own chapter. Some people wrote more than one chapter. But
Okay.
inside of here, the reason that it's called this Confessions and Game Changing Actions is because people are actually telling their real story of
Mhm.
what they've gone through, whether it's mindset, leadership, strategy, or whatever. And at the end of every single chapter is an action plan. And so
Right.
I absolutely love this because if you want to not just read a book, but to put the book into practice and into your life, this is the book that you should go out and get. And it is available on Amazon. So I'm encouraging people to do that. The second book that I have is called Stop Saying and Start Doing to Become Wealthy. Basically, that specific book is similar like this. It was so ironic that they both came out the same day because I didn't realize that
Oh,
it was
wow.
posting at the same time. But that particular one is now available. It's an ebook, but it's also now available in paperback. And what that
Oh,
does is that goes through about, I want to say 30 to 40 different stop saying, things that people say all the time. Oh, I'm going to wait for other people. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Oh, I don't need a mentor. Oh, I don't need a coach. Oh, yeah. No, you don't really know what to do. I know what to do. All of these things that business people, they need to stop saying it and
yes.
start doing these other actions. And then
Mhm.
inside of there, it has a statistics about how many people say those specific things and how it negatively affects them. And then
Yes.
the start doing is the actual action plan. And so in the back, it has a tracker so they can track every 14 days. Once they start doing that action, the results that they're getting. So I'm super excited about that as well. That's on Amazon, but it's really all again about who you are as a person, how you want to transform, and how it's going to get you to the next level with your business growth.
Yes. Wow. That was said so beautifully. Thank you for that. And so, can you talk to me about helping people get out of their comfort zones? Because,
Oh my goodness. I love this part. Yeah, let's get out of those comfort zones. Let's
yeah.
make you feel real uncomfortable right now. So, one of the strategies that I also do is when I meet a client, I actually take them through this test
Okay.
because I believe that everybody has what we call saboteurs. And saboteurs
Mhm.
are basically the personalities that you developed over the course of when you were younger. And now what they're doing is they're sabotaging you as you get older. And what
Mhm.
happens is you become so comfortable being that specific person that you've been for however long. And
Right.
as an example of a saboteur is like when the biggest saboteur that everybody has inside of us is called the judge, right? And so the judge is doing exactly what it's saying. It's judging. So
Yes.
judging you, it's judging yourself, it's judging other people, and it's judging situations and circumstances. And you always hear this every single day when people are like, oh, that was a hot mess, or what is she doing? Or,
Mhm.
well, what am I doing? You were constantly in a criticizing mode, and we don't realize that we're doing that. And
Mhm.
so when you get so comfortable doing that, you're actually sabotaging your life.
That's
And so
right.
now what you have to do is get uncomfortable doing it. So anytime you hear yourself about to judge yourself, others, or a situation, you have to begin to stop. And this is
Mhm.
one thing that people don't like to do because they swear up and down they don't do this, but they
Right?
do. They do. And then, so I personally took this test because, again, a group of us coaches, we all came together, and it was probably about 20 of us. We actually took this course. And it was basically teaching us a lot about ourselves, because when you have your own personal saboteurs, even if you're trying to coach someone else, if you can't get it together, how are you going to help somebody else get it together,
Oh,
right? Oh my
yes.
gosh. And so what I realized is like, oh my God, all of these things that you think did not affect you as a child
Yeah.
are actually really, really affecting you. And so
Yeah.
something as simple as, you know how the saying is that this person does this all the time. It
Yeah.
actually is very, very true, because what
Mm.
happened was that person developed that specific behavior to protect them as a child. But now that they're older, neurologically, their system
Mhm.
is playing it over and over and over. So it says, whenever this happens, you do this. And that's the behavior that people constantly keep doing. That's why they constantly are always sabotaging themselves. Some
Mm.
people will reach a state where they're really, really successful, and they'll do something crazy to sabotage their success,
Yes.
because they've actually reached the level of like, in the big leap, it talks about it, they've reached their level of happiness, right?
Right.
There's absolutely no way I could be more happy than this. So they'll do something crazy. And one of the examples in the book is that they use former President Clinton, and how he literally had $1 trillion surplus economy in the United States.
Mm.
All of the foreign countries were all on our side. Everything was going great with the United States. And then he goes and finds him a little friend, and she came into his office and she did what she shouldn't have, right? And that
Yes.
one act,
Wow.
no one can remember all of the great things he did. All they can remember is a Monica, right? And so basically he sabotaged himself. He had
Yeah.
reached his level of success and had gotten to a place where he felt like he couldn't do anything else. And then he goes all the way back down to the lowest of the low, because he was like, I can't sustain this happiness. So yeah, we
Right.
have to really focus on our mindset and how to overcome the obstacles that we constantly are facing every single day. And this is also something like when people are building businesses, or when people get afraid. If you get afraid, that is a great sign that you need to push past that. And what I tell people is 1, 2, 3, jump. Jump into whatever you're trying to do. Just jump, because the worst thing that can happen is you're already at where you already started,
Exactly.
back at zero.
Yes. Oh, so true. And faith. I mean, you have
Yeah,
to have faith, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's your definition of self-love?
Oh man, self-love. So I want to be honest about this. Like, really, self-love is something that I've really come into in the last couple of years.
Okay.
What I thought was self-love was really not that. It was more kind of like pacifying myself, right? So
Okay.
what I really found is that even though I'm a Muslim, I used to be a Christian, and one thing that I found is that, of course, in the Bible, when it talks about love, right? In First Corinthians and 13, and it talks about love is patient, love is kind, love is does not boast, all of these different characteristics. And what I decided to do was to actually take that entire verse that talks about love, and I started to examine, how do I do that with myself?
Mm.
Am I
Yeah.
patient with myself? Am
Mhm.
I kind to myself? Am I
Yeah.
not being boastful to myself?
Yeah.
Am I not do is there some sense of humility in myself? So like everything that it talks about when it comes to love, I had to really focus on, am I doing this for myself first?
Yeah.
And then if I'm doing it for myself, that to me is self-love.
Ooh.
And then impart that on to other people. Because one thing that I started noticing is that people are always talking about, oh, I love you, but you're not patient with me. People are so
Mm.
impatient with each other, right? You
Yeah.
say that you love me, but you're not kind to me. You're
Mm.
nice, but you're not kind.
Mm.
Kindness has mercy in it.
Mm.
Niceness is relative, right? And so I was
Yes.
like, these people are not, the love is not kind, right? And being patient. Patience is like, despite what the situation is, I'm going to give you some grace. And when do you ever hear people really giving each other grace anymore? And people aren't. So it's like, let me learn to love myself and then do this onto other people. So that's
Wow.
one thing that I've examined.
That was beautiful. I love it. So, can you tell me more about Lady Khadijah Institute?
Sure. So, Lady Khadijah Institute. So, in the religion of Islam, Lady Khadijah was basically the lady, right? She was beautiful and intelligent. She had basically inherited the wealth of her father when he passed away. So, she
Mm,
was enormously wealthy. And one of the things that she did in the community was she always took care of the community. She was always known to be extremely charitable, and she had a business. She owned her own business. I love this because it's like people don't realize, like, even back in the day, women were always donating and being prosperous when it comes to the community. And so what she did was, of course, she had found a young man whom she found an interest in terms of getting married, which was Prophet Muhammad. And so for for that thing in our religion, the prophet, of course, he became someone who worked with her, right? And her wealth also became the foundation of Islam. So when you say Lady Khadijah Institute, what I'm teaching women is how to be virtuous as a person, but also
mm,
be virtuous when it comes to money. Be virtuous when
mm.
it comes to your mindset. Be virtuous when it comes to your lifestyle. And so she is the quintessential person to actually be the one. So that's why I created the Lady Khadijah Institute. So I do coaching, I do business retreats, but I really, really, the biggest thing that I do there is focusing on mindset and helping and empower Muslim women and women of color to overcome those mindset hurdles, the saboteurs, right? And working on how can you move forward to get your business to 6 and 7 figures. And it is very, very, very much easy to do. So that's what the
Oh,
Lady
wow.
Khadijah Institute is.
Wow. And the website is Lady Khadijah, and that's spelled Khadijah
Yes.
Institute.com. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's how they can find you. Is that correct? Or is it?
That's one thing they can find me. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me in those places as well.
Wow, awesome. Well, I really appreciate all of the information that you have shared with us,
Thank you.
and I would love to have you come back in a couple of
Yes, I have to come back. We got to do more of this. I love it.
definitely, definitely. So you just hold on and let me go ahead and just end this, but give me one moment and thank you again, Naima, for
Thank
being a
you.
part of this show.
Thank you.
Okay. And everyone, I hope you all enjoyed it. I mean, she was just so full of energy and full of information. So I hope that you will be able to share this episode with the women in your life because it's so needed. Again, Mrs. Naima Abdullah with Lady Khadijah Institute.com. Check her out. Check out her books available on Amazon. And she will be back, I'm sure. So thank you all again for being a part of Beyond Boardroom Business with your host, Coach Stephanie. And Stephanie is spelled with 2 F's, fulfilling, fabulous, or financially free. However you want to spell it, but it's 2 F's. And until the next time, stay prayerful, stay patient, and stay persistent. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week at the same time. Peace.